Hello, good morning everyone. This video is all about what is Spring and Spring different modules. Let me explain you what is Spring first. Spring is a framework. Most of you people know, but what is the term means Spring? Spring, the term it says it's in different things in different context. It can be used to refer to the Spring framework project itself, which is where it all started. After some time, Spring projects have been built on top of the Spring framework. Most often, when people say Spring, they mean the entire family of projects. The Spring framework divided into modules. Any application which we want to use as a Spring framework, we can use the module which we need. At the heart are the modules of the core container. It includes configuration, model, and dependency injection mechanism. Beyond that, the Spring framework provides foundational support for different application architectures. What do you mean by foundational support? It's kind of messaging. If we want to do messaging using MQ or JMS, a transactional data and persistence and web. It also includes servlet-based Spring MVC web framework. These are the different modules available in Spring. And if you see the history of Spring, Spring started somewhere in 2003 as a response to the complexity of the Java Enterprise Environment specifications. While some consider Java Enterprise Edition and Spring to be in competition, in fact, Spring is a complementary to Java Enterprise Edition or J2EE. The Spring programming model does not embrace the Java Enterprise Edition platform specification. Rather, it integrates with carefully selected individual specifications from the E2E umbrella. It's called the specifications, which include Servlet API, WebSocket API, concurrency utilities, JSON binding, bean validation, JPA and JMS. The others like uh, Java Transaction API, it's called JTA, JCA. Spring Framework mainly supports the dependency injection and common annotation specifications, which any application developers may choose to use this instead of Spring specific mechanisms provided by the Spring Framework. As you people are seeing the modules which is um, there in the slide, there are different projects which is developed by Spring, which consist of around 20 or 25 projects. I have mentioned here few of the projects. We will discuss other projects later on my videos. Right now, what is Spring Boot, Spring Framework, Spring Data, Spring Cloud, Spring Cloud Data Flow, what is Spring Security, Spring Session and Spring Integration. These projects we will discuss in detail. First, let me explain what is Spring Boot. Again, Spring Boot also is a framework The main advantage with Spring Boot is convention over configuration. It's called, usually in Spring we will use most of the configuration in XML files, but later on it came to annotations. If we use Spring Boot, the configuration is very less and the dependencies like jars, whatever the jars we required, it will generate jars for us, and it will download, not generates, it will download jars from the repository. We no need to bother about what version we have to use it, and dependency on the jars, that will eliminate. And also Spring Boot makes it easy to create a standalone production grade Spring based applications that we just can run the application. So Spring platform will take care about third-party libraries. So we no need to get, or we no need to bother about all those things. Spring Boot applications need very little configuration, so which runs easily. So the features about Spring Boot is includes the mainly it creates standalone Spring applications. We can run that application in as a how we will run in the main program, a simple Java class like that. Spring Boot will provide a standalone Spring applications. It's embedded server like Tomcat Jetty. We no need to deploy war files. So once we run that standalone Spring application, it will inbuilt, it will create as a war file and it will deploy into Tomcat. And it provides most of the starter dependencies to simplify our build configuration. Automatically configure Spring and third-party libraries whenever possible. Provide production-ready features such as metrics, health checks, and externalized configuration. Absolutely no code generation and no requirement for XML configuration. Next comes to Spring Framework. The Spring Framework provides comprehensive program and configuration model for modern Java-based enterprise applications or any kind of deployment platform. Key element of Spring is infrastructural support at the application level. Spring focuses on the plumbing of enterprise application so that teams can focus on application level business logic without unnecessary ties to specific deployment environments. Again, it comes to features related to Spring Framework. There are different like features like core technologies. Spring Framework divided into different modules. So it comes under core technologies, testing, data access, Spring MVC, integration, and languages. Core technologies, it's include dependency injection, events, resources, internalization, validation, data binding, type conversion, and AOP. AOP means aspect oriented programming. Testing. Testing comes under mock objects, test context framework, Spring MVC test. Data access, transactions, DAO support, data access object support, JDBC, ORM, marshalling XML. When we were doing web services, it will be how we will do the marshalling and unmarshalling. Spring MVC and Spring Web Flux web frameworks, it will provide integrations like remoting, JMS, JMX, email, task, scheduling, cache. These are the main features related to Spring Framework. So the main advantage with any Framework is like infrastructural and configuration things which is taken care by framework. We will mostly focus on the business logic. Next comes under Spring Data. Next project in the Spring provided projects, Spring Data. What do you mean by Spring Data? Spring Data's mission is to provide a familiar and consistent Spring-based programming model for data access while still retaining the special traits of the underlying data store. It makes it easy to use data access technologies, relational and non-relational databases, map-reduce frameworks. If you know Hadoop, then you might understand the what map-reduce frameworks and cloud-based data services. This is an umbrella project which contains many sub-projects that are specific to given database. Spring Data, we already understand what is the Spring Data, and it the features related to Spring Data. It's a powerful repository and custom object mapping abstractions, and it will give you a dynamic query derivation from repository method names. Implementation domain based classes providing basic operations, basic properties. It supports auditing, like when it has created and when it has lost changed. It is possible to integrate custom repository code, easy Spring integration via Java config and custom XML namespaces. It will support to integrate with Spring MVC controllers. Spring Data like for provides for different applications, like Spring Data for Cassandra. The Cassandra is a database which provides by Apache. Then Spring Data Elasticsearch, Spring Data for Pivotal Gemfire, for Graph database. So Spring Data for JDBC, for Spring Data for JDBC extensions, Spring Database MongoDB. All these modules, Spring provides data for these applications. Now, what do you mean by Spring Session? Let's talk about Spring Session. Spring Session provides implementation for managing user session information. Its features include Spring Session makes it trivial support clustered sessions without being tied to an application container specific solution. It also provides transparent integration with HTTP session, WebSocket, and web session. Spring Session consists of the different modules. It includes Spring Core, Spring Session JDBC, Spring Session Data Redis, all these details. So if we want implement Spring Session object, we can use Spring Initializer and Spring by using Spring Boot. Then we can implement that Spring Session, how it works, and all those details. Now comes under Spring Security. What is what is the mean by Spring Security? Usually any application will have security. Spring Security is one of the project by Spring team developed. It's a Spring Security is a powerful and highly customizable authentication and access control framework. It is the de facto standard for securing Spring-based applications. Mostly Spring security framework that focus on providing both authentication and authorization to Java applications. Most of the people know that what is authentication and authorization. Authentication will provide basic to enter into the application, but authorization is specific to roles and depending on the roles, what role you are and which page you need to particular role. Few people are authorized to see that pages, so that's called authorization. Like all Spring projects, the real power of Spring security is found in how easily it can be extended to meet the custom requirements. Features: its comprehensive and extensible support for both authentication and authorization, protection against attacks like session fixation, clickjacking, cross-site requests, forgery, and it provides servlet API integration, optional integration with Spring MVC. So these are the main features with Spring security. Now comes under Spring integration. Usually Spring integration, what is Spring integration? It is like to support enterprise integration patterns. It's Spring programming model, it will support that. Spring integration enables lightweight messaging with Spring-based applications and supports integration with externalized systems via declarative adapters. Those adapters provide a high level of abstraction over Spring's support for remoting, messaging, and scheduling. Spring integration's primary goal is to provide simple model for building enterprise integration solutions while maintaining the separation of concerns that is essential for producing maintainable, testable code. Spring frameworks usually it encourages developers to code using interfaces and use dependency injection to provide a POJO class. With the dependencies, it needs to perform it takes stores. Spring integration takes this concept one step further, where POJOs were wired together using a messaging parallelism and individual components may not be aware of other components in the application. Such an application is built by assembling fine-grained reusable components to form a high level of functionality with careful design. These flows can be modularized and also reused on a higher level. With Spring integration, what are the main features? Its implementation of most of the enterprise integration patterns, endpoint, point-to-point or publish subscribe channels, aggregator, filter, and transformer. With integration with external systems like HTTP, Twitter, web services, SOAP, REST, TCP, JMS, RabbitMQ, email. This framework has extensive JMX support. Exposing framework components is a MBeans. These are the main features with Spring integration. Now comes under what is Spring Cloud and Spring Cloud Data Flow. Usually Spring Clouds provides tools for developers to quickly build some of the common patterns in distributed systems like configuration management, service discovery, circuit breaks, intelligent routing, and proxy, control bus, one-time tokens, leadership election, distributed sessions, cluster state. Coordination of distributed systems leads to bipolar patterns, and using Spring, cloud developers can usually stand up services and applications that implement those patterns. We will learn Spring Cloud deeply in next videos. Just I am touching upon what is Spring Cloud and what's the it will the mainly it's a bunch of libraries that enhance the behavior of an application when added to the class path. And what is Spring Cloud Data Flow? It's a the word itself says it's a toolkit for building data integration and real-time data processing pipelines. What is pipeline? Pipeline consists of Spring Boot apps built using the Spring Cloud Stream or Spring Cloud Task microservice frameworks. This makes Spring Cloud Data Flow suitable for a range of data processing use cases, from import or export to event streaming and predictive analysis. This is about Spring Cloud Data Flow and few of the projects which is developed by Pivotal. So thank you very much for viewing this video. If you like this video, please comment and share this in. Thank you very much for your time. Have a nice day.